Are you looking for inspiration on a daily basis? Then check out Deal to Heal Teas. With our inspirational teas, you're sure to find something to inspire you. That's dealtohealteas.com. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear inspirational tea and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealteas.com. Again, that's dealtohealteas.com. Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you'll enjoy the Girl Dad Discussion podcast. I'm your host, Ernest James, and I believe the relationship between a daughter and her father is one of the most important relationships a young lady can have. And therefore, my mission is to promote the daddy-daughter relationship by sharing the voices of girl dads to the world. So check out our podcast on every platform where podcasts can be listened to. And if you want to watch the podcast, check us out on our YouTube channel. Again, that's the Girl Dad Discussions podcast with your host, Ernest James. Welcome to Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. On this podcast, my guest and I will discuss topics and ways to help us to heal in every area of our lives. I believe that everyone can live a life that is happy, healthy, and whole. So I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get to it. Welcome to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I am your host, Ernest James, and I believe that everyone can and should live a life that is whole, healed, and healthy. And therefore, I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Thank you guys for tuning in once again to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. If you haven't already, make sure that you guys listen, like, subscribe, and share, and check out our new YouTube channel, the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network, formerly the Deal to Heal podcast with E. James. But now we have multiple podcasts, and so we've turned our YouTube channel, our YouTube page, into a channel for the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network. So make sure that you guys check that out. Also, make sure that you guys check out our partner podcast, the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. Again, that is a podcast where my guests and I, who are also girl dads, discuss the relationship with daughters and our relationship with our daughters, and talk about raising our daughters. And sometimes we're lucky, we even have daughters on to also talk about that relationship. Again, this podcast was created to combat the narrative of the absent father and the fatherless daughter. So make sure that you guys go and check that out. Also, our product of the week, as you guys know, we are a self-sustained podcast, and one of the ways that we stay on the air is by bringing you amazing products for you to purchase in order for us to pay our bills. So our product of the week is our purpose journal and our purpose planner, because I believe we should journal in order to keep track of where we are and where we've been, at the same time planning for our future. So our purpose journal and our purpose planner is available on Amazon. The links is in the descriptions under this episode, so you guys can go and check that out when you get a chance. So today, just like any other day, we are blessed with the guest, Dr. Phil. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. Yes, sir. How are you?
I am good. First of all, let me say thank you for being here, because you could have been doing anything else with anyone else, but you're here with me and my listeners. And so I just want to let you know we definitely appreciate it. So we go jump right into it. I'm gonna start it off. I haven't done this in a while, but we had a brief discussion before we started recording. And when I was mentioned to you about the Girl Dad Discussions podcast, that podcast actually started as a spinoff from this podcast. So whenever I would have a girl dad on, I would ask two questions. And so I'm going to ask you those two questions. The first question is, what does it mean to you to be a girl dad?
Oh man, it's a phenomenal experience. Just to kind of pour into them, come from my perspective, see where they can really benefit from a father perspective, and really the to know my role as a father is power and strength, right? So no matter what situation we all deal with, they know they have a father that's intentional and that wants to be a very important part of their life.
All right. And the second question is, tell us something that your daughters have taught you.
Wow, my daughters have taught me to really be patient and to kind of just see things for where it is. Just to kind of observe just life, and embrace the love that they give, and also, be a provider. And just you. I'll tell you one of the things that I loved when they were growing up is, and I still, I have a 4-year-old son as well. What I love to do is just watch them eat. Strange thing, right? I just love to just see them eat. And I didn't want to hear them eat because I don't want to hear them smacking.
Right.
But
And
there
that
was
is,
just this
that is
thing
a
I used
thing
to,
now.
yeah, I just love to see them eat because it just knows that they're provided for. I remember I was holding my daughter. We were in the post office, and the lady just pulled me aside and said, "Hey, your daughter looks very confident and comfortable. Uh, you know, she just looks like she's raised properly." I don't know how she really came out of it, but she just says she looks at home. And, that was just a stranger noticing something. So,
Mhm.
just to be there and provide and let them feel my strength through all of it.
Right. Amazing, amazing answers. All right, all right. So we're gonna jump right into this podcast. So do me a
Mhm.
favor, Dr. Phil, introduce yourself to my listeners and tell us who you are and a little bit about what you do.
Okay. All right. Yeah, Dr. Phil too. Um, and I guess I'll explain the two in a little bit. There's so many things phenomenal with that. But I'm a father, I'm a husband. I'm in a blended family, so I've gone through some stuff through divorce and remarriage, and I'm a minister. So been pastoring for the last 23 years. 23 years. From New York to Rhode Island, Connecticut, DC, and now Baltimore. So excited about that. Motivational speaker, coach, new start coach, and also volunteer as a police chaplain for Prince George's County Police Department. So excited about that as well. And just try to, be as innovative as possible, and not only spreading the gospel, just spreading good news, speaking to students in public schools and private schools and giving them hope, empowering them for a successful future. So just using every avenue, every, podcaster as
Mhm.
well. So just using every avenue to reach people and brighten up their day in some way.
Right. Okay, all right. So I want to jump right in this because you mentioned about basically being a new start coach, right? And I might try to get some free coaching out of you while we on here, right? Because we have a lot of stuff in common, right? And that kind of look like a little bit. I think I got a little more gray than you got
Yeah, yeah.
in my
I
beard.
plucked all mine out.
But you mentioned a couple things,
Mhm.
and I'm like, okay, because a lot of things are common, right? Been divorced before myself. Was a blended family at one point. Pastor at one point. Um, I didn't do the chaplain. I thought about it, becoming a chaplain at one time. So just a lot of little different things, in what you just said. And I know a change. There was a big change, and I wouldn't necessarily call it a midlife crisis, but it seemed like it. You know what I'm saying? And it all kind of coincided, kind of around the same time a couple years ago with COVID. So coming out of COVID, ended up uh, shutting down the church, which I shared with you before. Shutting down the church, going through a divorce at that time also, and then just going through a period of asking myself, like, okay, who am I? Who am I without everything that I've been carrying up until this point? And then one of the reasons why I say it could be also midlife crisis because I'm 48 now too, so I'm almost 50. So it's right in that time. Like,
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I'm saying? I
We,
can't
we
I
we are
can't
the
blame
same
all of
age,
it on the
bro.
pandemic, huh?
We're at the same age. So
Right. Yeah. So I can't blame everything on the pandemic. You know what I mean? So, but I went through a lot of changes in the last couple of years. And some, not all bad, or should I say, not all bad came from it, right? So I'm in a space now. When I tell anyone, I don't care what happens to me, right? And when I say I don't care what happened to me, is because I truly believe that all things work for the good of them that love the Lord. And my divorce and everything that I went through in the last couple of years led me to where I am now, including, the fatherless daughters, being a fatherless daughter advocate, starting this podcast after being a guest on several podcasts talking about fatherless daughters, which led to the start of this podcast, and then even starting the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. So a lot of things, kind of going on, which led me to where I am now. So I definitely started a lot of new stuff. The
sure.
speaking space, the
Hmm.
podcasting space. A lot of new beginnings, right?
Yes,
For me.
yes,
So
yes.
um, I don't even know where to start with that. I just threw it out there.
Sure.
But in your work that you do, because I know you work a lot in the school space or education space,
Yes.
right? So let's dive a little bit into your background in that space, and actually starting with, what even made you go into that field to even want to be active in that way.
Life is all about imprinting. And so growing up, my mother even switched her career from, working at Citibank to going back to school and becoming an educator. So just one day she just felt the spirit that she was going to be an educator, and she did. She started from kindergarten, worked her way up to first and second grade for some time, and then became a principal, became an assistant principal, a principal, public school, private school. So education has always been a part of my imprinting, my system, and then ministry as well, because my father was a pastor. He pastored for 42 years, right? So he passed away in 2020, but those things are always imprinted, and just kind of that influence was always there. Ever since I got out of college, got my master's, even while I was getting my master's, I would go and substitute in schools. And even when I substituted in schools, we just turned that into a motivational session. It was like, all
Right.
right, forget the books. Let's talk, everybody. So that's what, actually it started from like 23 years ago. I was, in the public school, and I would just pour into them, just start speaking to them. During the teenage years, I wanted to be a rap artist. So, though that's part of my story. So they'd be like, yo, can you kick some lyrics? So I would kick some lyrics while we were in there. and things like that. We just make it fun. So through time, I was always working in schools. I was a PE teacher for 2 years, just kind of, on a stipend volunteer basis. But I was a PE teacher, loved it, enjoyed it. And then, at other schools, I'd either teach Bible study or, conduct some other classes. So I was always in the rhythm of being in school, being in church, being in school, being in church. So it was just something I enjoyed, something that was just part of my system. Even spent time as a youth director for a conference for over 20,000 youth from New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts. Even after that, during that time, was a camp director. So education was always there, always a part of what I did. But I'll tell you where it really came to a head. During the pandemic, my wife was like, "Hey, I want to travel to Jamaica." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." Yeah, I went there and it's really safe and things like that. So we're like, "All right, let's go." So we get to Jamaica. And before I got to Jamaica, I saw this ad by Jeremy Anderson, right? And he was, he put this ad out about, $27 and, come, learn how to be a speaker, how to make money through speaking. I said, oh, sounds interesting. So, went to Jamaica and I'm walking through a path. And what do I behold? Jeremy Anderson right there. Boom.
In Jamaica.
In Jamaica.
Oh, wow.
Now, I had known Jeremy for some time just through other youth ministries and him speaking and things like that. So I knew him and we met before. But I'm like, hey, this is Phil Wesley, what hey, talk to me about what's going on with Next Level Speakers Academy. He told me and he broke it down to me right there on the spot. I was like, okay, I'll be joining the class, right? And then I joined the class. I bought in. I said, okay, I'm coming to the conference. After the conference, I bought my module, and it really just solidified. This is what I need to do. I am a speaker. I mean, I speak every week, just naturally, just because that's my job, right? But speaking in schools is something I've always had a passion for, and I've always done, but didn't know how to earn an income doing that.
Right.
You made a little money here and there, but nothing like what I'm doing now. And so it really solidified, hey, this is it. This is where you fit. So we created the Dr. Phil 2 brand, um, and Shaping Your New Start. And so I got with my business coach, Kimon Hines, and we started talking, we started breaking down. And right after the conference in Atlanta, like I went to see my mother who was living in Florida at the time. And that whole time I was just on my computer designing. I was like, I got to design my logo. I created a new Instagram page, a new Facebook page. I was just creating, and just started pouring into the purpose that I believe God was leading me to. And it became a phenomenal journey from there. And it's just been great.
Yeah, yeah. So you hit on a couple different things, which that's why we supposed to meet. We probably twins, right? So one of the things you said is your dad was a pastor, so you have PK,
Yep.
as well as I am. My mom actually was a pastor. My mom also passed away a couple years ago. Um,
Mm.
but you also mentioned Jeremy Anderson, and for my listeners who don't know, Jeremy Anderson is a world-renowned speaker, and one of the things that he started a program called the Next Level Speakers, in which he trains other people to be speakers.
Yeah.
I actually came across Jeremy, not in person, but I came across Jeremy watching a podcast. He was a guest on the podcast, and I watched that podcast and was like, okay, I was already interested in being a speaker. Of course, like yourself, speaking in church, that's one thing.
Right.
But then
Mhm.
actually going into the schools and
Yep.
doing that's a whole nother thing. So I'm like, all right, I was already interested, and so I looked Jeremy up and ended up also joining the Next Level Speakers. So actually, this year was the first year I went to a conference, and one of the things that happens, right? It was planned this time, but it wasn't planned the first couple of times that he did it. Was that people asked to get baptized, and so
Yes.
they started
Yeah.
baptizing people at the conference.
That's
Now
right.
Jeremy also is a minister, also, so
Hmm.
it wasn't out of the norm for if you know who he is as a
That's right.
person.
Hmm.
And so a lot of times people hear that are like, "What are the speakers convention?" Like, yes, you got to know who's over it, right? You got to know who you following, right? So Jeremy is a minister, and so yes, there were people that came forth and asked to get baptized at the conference. And this year, I was one of those people, right? So this was my first conference that I went to,
Hmm.
and I actually had forgot all about it, right? Because I knew that it was a chance that it was going to happen, but by the time it actually came to time to go to the conference, I forgot all about it. But I had prepared to get in somebody's pool anyway. So I had swimming trunks and all of that stuff in my luggage when we got to Atlanta. And when the call was made, and I was just like, yeah, that's what it is. And that goes back to what I was talking to you earlier, mentioning about, just going through those changes in my life the last couple of years, and I really just felt that I needed a restart. With a lot, I started a lot of things over, but spiritually, I felt that I needed that restart. And so
Hmm.
when that offer was made, I stepped up and took it, and I think it was about 100 of us that got baptized at the conference this year, and so that was amazing. Shout out to Jeremy and the Next Level
That's right.
speakers
Yes, sir.
community. Awesome community. I'm glad to be a part of it. I'm part of the Chicago chapter also, so shout out to them too.
Yes, yes.
Um,
Yeah,
so
shout out to my DMV chapter.
all right. So I want to I want to talk, man. It's so much stuff I want to talk about. I don't know if we're gonna have time to hit everything right.
Hmm.
So let's go to let's talk about family first, right? Because you
Sure.
mentioned that you're a blended family, and
Hmm.
also I talked about I was a blended family too. My daughter is from my first marriage. My daughter's my only biological child. Then I was remarried, and my wife at the time had four sons. So now I have four sons and a daughter, which gives me five kids. Unfortunately, we did end up getting divorced. Still great friends to this day. I'm very happy about her relationship with my daughter because they have an amazing relationship outside of me, right?
Hmm.
And so I'm very glad about that. But just the challenges that come along with being a blended family,
Yeah.
and especially a blended family. Like I said, I have my daughter's my only biological child, but then I'm
Hmm.
coming into four sons. And the oldest one is older than my daughter is the baby of the five. So all of the sons is older than my daughter. So just coming into that space, even
Hmm.
though I've known all of them their whole life, including their mom. Me and their mom actually went to kindergarten together, and we went to
Wow.
church together. So that's how long we've known each other, right?
Wow.
So,
Hmm.
but just coming into that space as adults, because the one thing we knew each other, as kids and growing up, in church
Hmm.
together, and then of
Sure.
course teenage years we kind of go, live our own separate lives before we end up coming back together. So coming back together in that blended family as adults,
Yeah.
right? With all the experiences that you've had as teenagers and coming into adulthood, it's just challenging
Hmm.
by itself, should I say. So if you were talking to someone that's, again, I ask for some free coaching right now
Yeah.
in my space,
Sure.
what I'm saying. But just coming into that blended family space and trying to navigate, what that looks like. What would be some of the pointers that you may give them coming into the door of that situation?
Yeah. First, you one of the things, and I write this in my book, 6 Ways to Shape Your New Start. It's an ebook that's free for anybody to download. First thing is own your pasts, right? You own everything that happened before you.
Mhm.
Everything that you did wrong or was wrong to you. We just own it, and then you want to define your future. So who are you, where are you? And so that's what happened for me. It's like, okay, I went through counseling, and it's okay to get counseling. It's great to get counseling. It's great to
Mhm.
hear another perspective and see how you can grow even from there. But yeah, I had to go through a process and trust the process to know that, okay, I'm in the right place. I'm in the right space of where I need to be. And even that road was tough because there would be decisions I'd make that looked good, it looked great, but it wasn't a fit, right? So I learned I learned through the process what is a good fit for me, right? It's not just what looks good or what seems good. Sometimes we fall in love with the idea of something, in the idea of a marriage, idea of a relationship, idea of a job, but what is the right fit, right? You don't have to
Mhm.
fit in, but you do have to have the right fit. And so that's what I had to learn through the process. So you want to see what is a good fit for you. Is this job a good fit? Is this relationship a good fit? It doesn't mean that the other person is a bad person. It's just, hey, it's not a fit, right?
Mhm.
Remember that song by New Edition? Sorry, you're not my type of girl, right? He was saying like, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just we're not a fit for
Mhm.
each other, right? So that goes along in life. And once you can kind of define that and define where you want to be, where do you want to go? What do you want to be? I remember one day a radio DJ or radio host. We were at a concert she was hosting. She looked at me. She's like, there's greatness in you. I need you to recognize that. There's greatness in you. I'm like, wow, thank you. But it's just people that speak into your life. I had another member was like, there's something awesome about you. I need you to tap into that. I need you to use. And she gave me the sermon that I use all the time. What God told to Moses, right? He says, what's in your hand? What's in your hand? Use what's in your hand. And so I started to learn, okay, let me utilize what I have, the gift that I have, and let me move with that. And it's been a blessing for me ever since.
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned something that I think is very instrumental in our journey, and that is sometimes we don't see in ourselves what other people see,
That's right.
and so even as part of my testimony is growing up, not necessarily growing up, but after I became a associate minister at the church that I was at, it
Mhm.
probably was a good maybe 10 or 15 of us as far as associate ministers at that time that was serving in that
Sure.
church. And I always kind of played the background because that's just my personality. I didn't have to be up front. And but several people came to me, and was like, just talking about the way I spoke when I did preach and things of that. And I always not necessarily compared myself, but
Hmm.
just looking at the presentation of others, right? When they go forth to speak and the charisma and all of that that they came. When I was like, yeah, I don't do all that. You know what I mean? And but for other people to recognize, even in me, like you don't have to do all of that. Like you have something, on your own, and you stand alone, yourself. And I had to kind of go through that whole transition of listening after several people, even I think it was part three of the other ministers that was there
Wow.
at that time, came
Yes.
to me. And even after they became pastors themselves came to me and asked me, to join their church. And again, just something that, not looking at myself and probably I don't know, humblest way or whatever, and just be like, who am I? I'm just little old me, you
Yeah,
know. But
sure.
obviously, you know, they saw something in me that I didn't see in myself at the time, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And so I definitely grateful for those who have eyes to see, you know, what we don't see. And sometimes, especially now, as ministers and as you know, motivational speakers to go into
Yeah,
these spaces with the schools, especially with the kids, to be able to again see what they may not be able to
that's
see
right.
themselves, you know. And one of the things, because when I go into the talk to the schools, but I think it's really important. Education definitely they're very important. That my one of my speeches that I give when I talk to them as a retention specialist is really getting them to see where education connects with their real life. You know, and I think there's sometimes a disconnect where the students know they have to go to school, but it's like almost sometimes like I'm here because I have to be, because they don't see how the education that they are receiving actually connects to them in real life or their real life situation, whether it's their current situation or whether it's their future situation where they see themselves going. They don't necessarily see how their education connects all the time. And so that's one of the things that I do is kind of walk them through like, okay, where are you now? Where do you see yourself going?
Sure.
This is the part the education pays, you know. And even in myself, I am a bricklayer by trade, right, in the construction field. And one of my favorite subjects was geometry. And it wasn't
Mm,
so much that I liked geometry, but I liked it because of how I knew how it connected to the field of construction, which I already
sure.
knew that's where I was going to go, you know, as far as in my life. And so I enjoyed it, the angles and all of that stuff, because I knew when I got out on the job site, I started off building new homes and then became a bricklayer and now building schools and furnaces and all those things. But I could already see how it connected to where I was going, you know. And so sometimes just getting them to be able to see where you are now and how education plays a part and
Yeah,
where you're trying to go, that
yeah.
makes it easier for them to apply themselves even more.
Now I see why you have the bricks in your black background. You know,
Yeah, yeah, you see it right.
it makes sense now. You know, there's a good action film called The Bricklayer. So yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think I seen the an
The
ad
ad.
for it that I'm about to
Yeah,
check it out. I'm about to
yeah,
check it
yeah,
out.
yeah. The Bricklayer. That's it, man. Listen, I was just
Yeah.
talking to my wife, and we were talking about her great grandfather being a bricklayer. And so,
Mm.
you know, phenomenal. Listen, phenomenal trade for anybody to consider, even today, even today. So,
Yes,
that's
yes.
good stuff,
Yeah,
man.
that's one of the things I do also when I go into the schools. I talk to the kids about joining the trades, joining
Yep.
one of the building trades.
Right.
Definitely an open um, opportunity for who's ever ready to take it, you know, to step into it. But you mentioned your wife, right? So we're gonna transition a little bit. You mentioned your wife, and your wife also part of your blended family, and also an author. Uh, of a book, and I definitely want to have her on at some point to discuss the book herself. But even with that, if you could tell us a little bit about even how you guys met and even the concept of her book, definitely don't have to give the whole thing. Again, we'll definitely have her on at
Sure.
some time to talk about it herself. But even the values that went into, you know, you guys coming together as a blended family, and then her even writing the book.
Yeah. You know, we met years ago, like when I first started ministry. And so 23 years ago, we met. You know, we had conversation here and there, but we both went on our different pathways in life. And, but the people that we were always connected to kind of connected us together. So,
Mhm.
you know, I had a clue of things she was going through. And so just one day I reached out and, uh, and that was it. I reached out, you know, with the intention of saying, okay, you know what, this is somewhere I want to go further with. You know, it's not, I don't want to play around anymore. I want to test that water over here, test this over here. I know what I want. I know what's a good fit, and pursued it, and here we are. Here we are. God just kind of organized a lot of things together for us right now. So it's been a blessing. We were living in two different states. So I was in Rhode Island. She's in Maryland. And so I'll put miles on my car. I'll say that. I'll put miles on my car. And God worked it out that I can work in DC. And now, going into Baltimore, great opportunity. But yeah, it's just one of those things that God orchestrated and made it happen for today.
All right, all right. So this will be our last transition because I
Sure.
definitely didn't want to end without talking about. Of course, during this whole episode, we've been talking about God anyway, but talking about ministry and the new um, opportunities that you've been presented with. That you guys are now about to start on this new journey in
Yes.
ministry. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, uh, United in Christ Church in Baltimore, we are. I'm about to be installed, so by the time everybody's listening, I'm installed in Baltimore, United in Christ, and we are not in our building right now. We are in a building project. Okay, so we're in a building project, building renovation, and so right now we're virtual. We're virtual. So even the installation we've had to do, uh, partner up with another church just to do the installation. But uh, gone into the city, just kind of meeting people, meeting the locals, and we were actually shooting uh, a advertisement video, right, just to welcome people to the church. And while I was recording, another man in his car was listening, like, hey man, that sounded good. Hey, what church are you at? So we started dialoguing, and you know I made a shirt called Be More United. Be More United, right? So using that Baltimore term and the United in Christ term. So we did that, and building relationships. It's all about building relationships. When you go into a new situation, no matter if the church is established or not, well established, you go in and you build relationships. In fact, that's one of the social and emotional learnings, right?
Right, right.
That we teach in our schools. Building relationships is important, to growing a church, to growing a business. It's all about building those relationships. So, I'm excited for this new start. It's a new start for me. It's a new start for the church. They've had great leaders in the past that have built the foundation for where we are right now, and so I'm just kind of building on what they did, what they
Mhm.
started, and just trying to make it my own as well. So I'm excited about that. And really, my life has just been about new starts. Even by the time I reached eighth grade, I'd been to 5 different schools,
Mm.
right? So and it wasn't because of behavior. It's just my mother was an educator. If she moved to one school, I moved with her. Or if she decided she wanted me in this school, then I went to that. So 5 different schools in different cities and even different states. I learned how to build relationships. Like wherever I went, I learned how to build new relationships. So I never worried about wherever I went if I'm going to find a friend or not. I've always found a friend, always found somebody I can hang with, talk to, I can vibe with. And, that's just been my life. So even in right now in my marriage, just finding somebody I can vibe with. And then, she wrote the book, We Need More Clouds. And, we just kind of build on, what has been started. So really, when you start over, you're not starting from scratch. You're
Mhm.
starting from the point of your experience. You're just taking a reset. So a new start is not about starting over, really. It's just starting again. And, you have more experience. I remember watching the Olympic trials, right? And when the runners They take off, and then boom, you hear the gun say, "Up, nope, stop." You got to do it over. And
Mhm.
although some of the other runners are mad at the person who faulted, right?
Mhm.
Now they know what kind of momentum they need to start with, because I'm telling you, some of these runners, it was insane watching these runners, and even some who had accomplished the new start. They tripped, they fell, they didn't get that new opportunity, but they still are building off of even the failed moments. They're still building. So that's what we're doing. We're even building off of the failed moments. Failure. I remember Dave Chappelle once said, "The failure is education. Failure is education." And like the book, failing forward, right? So a new start is, for me, it's really just taking everything you've learned about the past and owning it, but defining a new future and thrusting yourself, but with confidence this time.
Mhm.
No more negative talk. No more putting yourself down and wondering if you're good enough. Like, there's room for you. We always say there's room at the cross, right? Uh, there's room for you in the world of success. There's room for more millionaires out there. There's room for more billionaires out there. But guess what? At the end of the day, this girl, asked her, "What do you want to be in life?" She says, "I want to be rich." I said, "Wow. Well, are you going to be a mean rich person or a nice rich person? I mean, I want you to be rich, but can you be the nice rich person?" You know what I'm saying? So there's room for nice people out there, people with compassion, people with empathy. There's room for that.
All right, all right. So, lastly, before we get out of here, I know we talked about. You mentioned about the ebook that you have that's
Yeah,
free for everyone that's willing to download it. We'll make sure that we get the link to it and put it in the description so that's available to my audience. But when they go to download it, could you give us a little bit about the ebook and what they can expect to get from it?
absolutely. 6 ways to shape your new start. I even throw in a bonus seventh, but it's 6 ways to shape your new start. And I just talk from my heart, talk from my experience on how you can start over. Because I believe when you shape a new beginning and you go in with a new mindset and you go confidently into the future, things happen on the job. I remember when I was shifting into my educational spiel on, social media, and talking about motivating and throwing out my motivational quotes. My boss actually said, "Hey, I like where you're going with this. I like it." And then later on, he created a position for me in education. So I was an assistant superintendent for 16 different schools. So when I needed that boost, he gave me that boost, and I was able to go into these schools, motivate them, talk to them, and I saw a lot just from doing that, because some kids, they actually think they're dumb. I'm like, "Hey, don't say that about yourself.
Mhm.
No, no, no." You will not say that, and just being able to go into, so my talk created an opportunity for me. So because I defined my future, now opportunities came my way, and I was able to hone my skills. I was able to practice. I was able to, really pour into the kids in the schools. Every school I went to, I just went with intentionality that I'm going to pour into you. And even the lower grades, I take my wife's book, We Need More Clouds, and I would read to them. So, sometimes you know this, you go into a school, you get to the second to third, fourth graders, it's like you're not going to be doing the motivational talking.
Right.
So the best you can do is sit down and read to them. They love reading time. Oh my goodness, these kids love reading time. In fact, I feel like I need to do that a little bit more this coming school year. Is just go in and read. Just, hey, can I read to your kids? And they love reading time, and you get a good book. And so many people have so many great children's book out there that we can promote and we can read to our kids. So, and I have a 4-year-old, so I read every night. So I, it's in our system. It's in my blood.
All
Yeah.
right, all right. So, Phil, Dr. Phil, I definitely appreciate you coming on. Definitely appreciate your expertise. I want you to have the last word. I want you to leave us with a word of advice or motivation, if you will, and also to share your social media platforms and where we can follow you and get more information about you. So I'll give you a couple seconds to think about that. So while you're thinking about that, to my listeners, I want to say thank you guys for tuning in. To the podcast. Also, I have a couple of things I want to mention to you guys, just in case you guys listen to the podcast. If you ever thought about starting your own podcast, you can get your copy of the Start Your Podcast Now ebook at ebooksbyejames.com. It's the ebook that I wrote because I was helping people start their own podcast, and people start asking me more and more how to start a podcast. And so I made the book excuse me, I made the ebook, Start Your Podcast Now,
Mm,
in only 3 days. I mean, 3 steps. Start your podcast
yes.
now in three
Yes.
steps. And so it walks you through that. And also now I've even been able to turn it into a after school program where I'm teaching the students at the elementary school and high school
Yes.
how to start their own podcast. So if you ever thought of starting your own podcast, just go to ebooksbyejames.com and get your copy of the Start Your Podcast Now ebook. Also, make sure you guys are checking out our other podcasts, our other websites, including the dealhealfulfill.org, which is my main website, which talks about myself and the things that I have going on. Of course, you guys know I am a speaker. I am a author also, as well as a podcaster. And so I do these workshops. Been blessed to do several workshops, but I also speak in schools and do facilitate workshops in those same schools. So in case you wanted to have me to come out to speak to your school, to your students, just go to dealhealfulfill.org and check it out. And also you can go there to get me to come out to be in your school, right? To speak at your school. Also, make sure that you guys go to ebooksbyejames.com to check out the other ebooks that I have available besides the Start Your Podcast Now ebook. We also have an ebook called From Males to Men, which is a male mentoring book. We have an ebook called Forgiving Me, the 4 Steps to Self-Forgiveness. And we also have the Core 4, which is the Core 4 values that every daughter should get from her father, which is the book
Hmm.
that we use when we go with the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. Myself and the dads actually discuss the principles in that ebook. So again, go to ebooksbyejames.com in order to check that out. And last but not least of our website, make sure you guys go to deal2healtees.com. That's deal2healtees.com, which is our inspirational t-shirt line. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tee and be inspired all day. Again, that's the number 2 healtees.com, deal2healtees.com, where we also have our podcast merch there, where you guys can check out our t-shirts that we made with our logos on it for the Deal to Heal podcast, as well as the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. Last but not least, I have been blessed to be a part of an organization called the Forgiveness Mission. And what we do, we have free virtual workshops every other month. We used to do them every quarter of the year. Now we do them every other month. And we talk about everything regarding forgiveness, forgiveness of self, forgiveness of others. What does it mean to forgive? Who forgiveness is for? Just everything surrounding around forgiveness. And I think it's a very important topic. And that's why I do it. And so we have the free virtual workshops, again, every other month. Whenever you listen to this, either one is coming up or one just passed, you can go to forgivenessmission.com in order to check that out, or just go to Eventbrite and look up Forgiveness Workshop hosted by the Forgiveness Mission. McGuireWesley.com in order for you guys to sign up for that free virtual workshop that we do every other month. Make sure you guys go and check that out. Again, Mr. Phil, Dr. Phil, I'm sorry,
Oh,
Dr.
listen,
Phil.
but you just said it because my bonus daughter, she calls me Mr. Phil.
Mr.
So,
Phil.
so I get Mr. Phil, I get Dr. Phil. Oh, so let me explain real quick the two. The two comes from Philip II. Uh, I'm born on May 2nd. So I'm the second child. And my rap name was actually Clever Two because I was the second Clever because my cousin who died due to violence and gang violence and things like that in LA, he was a graffiti artist whose tag name was Clever. So I took that name on to be Clever Two. So two has been synonymous with my life in so many ways. It takes two to make a thing go right,
Right.
right? So I've just kept that number with me, and it's been my favorite number ever since. So we went with the Dr. Phil too, of course, making the distinction that there is a distinction, but I have my PhD. It's all good. So, but yeah, it's just I want to take this time to appreciate you, Ernest James, motivational speaker, podcast author. Want to appreciate you. Thank you so much for taking the time and having me on Deal to Heal. I look forward to being on the next podcast as well. And we big you up and appreciate you, King, and all that you're doing and all that you're dealing with. We pray that you prosper from here, and everybody who's listening, we pray that you are prosperous and in good health because people with money are dying too, right? And
Mhm.
there's just so much going on in our world, but stay faithful till the end and you will receive the crown of life. Stay faithful to the end. Stay faithful not only to God, but well, number one, to God, and stay faithful to yourself. Stay faithful to the process, and you will see success. Execute, get it done. Don't just say it, just don't dream about it, get it done. If it's a vision that you have, write the vision. Nothing will happen until you write the vision. Write it down on a pad, on a paper, on one of them envelopes that they keep sending us that we shred anyway. Write the vision, all right? Whatever you got to do, write your vision and make it plain. And I believe great things will come your way, but be intentional on goodness, be intentional on health, be intentional on wholeness, be intentional in healing. We believe that you can heal. It takes time, but I believe in healing. Even through going through a divorce, there's still moments I get emotional. Losing my dad, there's still moments I get emotional. But healing is great. It's great. You can be able to talk about it and not get
Mhm.
emotional. You're able to just talk and just be free. And forgiveness is a great part of life. Whoever you need to go out and forgive somebody right now because it's not going to do you any good holding on to that grudge. Forgive and move on. So once again, thank you. Deal to Heal with J.E. James podcast. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you. You can follow me on Dr. Phil _2, Dr. Phil _2 on X, formerly known as Twitter, or Instagram. Instagram is where it's at as well. But Dr. Phil _2, drphil2.com is my website. You can book me for speaking at any of your schools, even churches. Hey, why not? Let's make it happen, right? But you can follow me there. You can get the ebook from drphil2.com. You can get merch from there as well. So come check us out at drphil2.com. Follow me on all those social media platforms. Look forward to hearing from every one of you.
All right, all right. We can't end it no better than that. To my listeners, thank you guys for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, where our mission is to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Until next time, you guys be blessed. Thanks for listening to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Remember to listen, like, subscribe, and share. This episode has been brought to you by Deal to Heal Teas. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tee and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealteas.myshopify.com. Remember, our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for listening.